This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Prime in association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Hello and welcome. You're watching our special edition Smart Technologies for a Smart India. There was a time when buildings were conceived on paper. Then came the era of the CAD or computer-aided design. But the 21st century is going to be all about BIM. BIM, short for Building Information Modeling, is an intelligent model-based process. A project is turned into a 3D model that holds intuitive data and geometry that runs through the life cycle of a project. It improves coordination between engineers, contractors and architects. There are reduced errors and chances of rework. You save time, you save raw material, you save money, and you deliver a project that's smart from the word go. I'm joined by two expert voices on BIM who are going to talk us through how BIM is revolutionizing the construction of buildings and infrastructure in India. Please welcome Pradeep Nair, Managing Director, Autodesk India, and Ravi Sarangan, Director, Edifice Consultants. Pradeep, Ravi, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you today. Pradeep, I'd like to begin with you. Now, for you at Autodesk, in India today, we're reimagining a whole new country. We're talking about smart cities, we're talking about urban renewal, sustainable housing, building transport, industrial corridors. So when it comes to BIM, how can this concept, building information modeling, help us achieve this grand vision?
So you said it. I mean, you did a very good job laying out what BIM does for the industry, and so that's exactly what we can do for the industry with BIM. So all the things that we're talking about, smart cities, reimagining India, you need a platform for doing that. So what we see is BIM becoming the platform for urban planning. If you want to construct a new building, if you want to construct a new bridge, if you want to construct a new highway, if you want to construct a whole new city, building information modeling is what helps you do that. So we at Autodesk have traditionally done a pretty good job, I think, of helping people design, create, and imagine a better world.
Ravi, if we talk about housing, smart cities, housing will be a big factor, infrastructure will be a big factor for these smart cities. So for developers of these two segments, what is the value proposition of BIM? For people who want to invest in BIM, what would you tell them? What kind of a return on their investment will they receive?
Simple. I think finally India has realized that time is money. It's not just the capital cost of the project, it's the cost which gets into, you tally it with time, you realize that your return on investment planned could go completely off kilter if the project schedule goes wrong. So it's important that you plan well in advance, you see your returns coming in when you complete your project within the specified time frame. Then you find that even the budget is in place. So when you're designing using technology, wherein every single bit is coordinated right on day one, if you were to go look in the past, architects used building models, physical models, to imagine, to convey your thoughts to the customer. But we also had to rely on our consultants, which are your structural engineer, your mechanical engineer, drawing version control, and then if I could get a platform where all of this is coordinated well in advance and you issue it to the contractor does not need to rely on the consultants one bit. He goes full steam ahead and completes the project on time. So for a developer who's building, especially with the new buzzword, smart cities, etc., this is a win-win situation.
Pradeep, if we talk about the Indian real estate sector, the one aspect that's always compromised is the planning stage. We all the community, the developer community here is quite gung-ho on bringing in the investment and getting the project delivered on time, but there's no focus on how to execute and pre-plan the project and think of all the errors that could possibly come in the kind of locations that India has for real estate. We have to go out of the cities to develop much of the housing. So in that respect, BIM is going to be a big opportunity and a big solution for all the issues that we face with regard to execution delays in the Indian real estate sector.
Absolutely. There is not much we can do about things like, land acquisition and the political, legal part. That's separate. But in terms of, again, referring back to what Ravi said, the cost of rework. I mean, if you look at what was in the 5-year plan that just came to an end, we said we need to build 25 kilometers of road every day. And we actually ended up doing significantly less, single digit. I think about 5 kilometers of road is what we actually built. We can change all of that with BIM because the cost of rework, finding out that we can't do this when we actually go to construct, that's a change that we can do because you can plan everything in advance. You can find out errors well before they happen. You can coordinate between different agencies much better than you used to be able to do before. And because everybody is working off the same model, everybody is working off the same set of data.
Okay, so BIM is going to be a big game changer for the Indian construction sector. Let's also look at another angle. Many countries across the developed world have already adopted BIM and have in fact made BIM mandatory. But in India, the story of BIM has actually just begun. Let's look at this report where Lakshmi Sivadas tracks how BIM is finding many takers in India, in fact.
The Suntec Business Park is a new IT park set to be built in Trivandrum. It is to have 4 buildings with its first phase alone, constituting about 20,000 square feet. The project is set to become the developer's headquarters once it is completed. But this is unlike any other IT park in the country. Why is it so different? Mainly for the way in which it is set to be constructed, using building information modeling.
In this project, we have attempted what we call as a 4-dimensional modeling approach for our clients, where the project is not only modeled for design and engineering, but it's also modeled for constructability and timeline for construction.
It doesn't end with the Trivandrum IT Park. More and more companies in India are slowly warming up to the building information modeling or BIM way of construction. For starters, what is BIM? Building information modeling is a combination of software technology and processing that tries to remove inefficiencies in traditional project delivery mechanisms. It uses 2D and 3D models of projects for design, construction, and operation, as opposed to the traditional CAD software that is used. But why is it so important for the real estate sector of a country to adopt BIM?
At the developer level, I think you can say that the benefit of BIM is that it introduces schedule certainty, it introduces cost certainty, and it introduces quality certainty. What do I mean by that? If you have a model that describes your project in a lot of detail, then the developer can actually find out the exact duration time that the project will take.
The benefits of using building information modeling is being witnessed world over. Most of the developed world have already adopted it. The USA is already a leader in BIM usage with more than 70% of the projects using BIM. Governments across Europe have made BIM usage mandatory for the efficiencies it provides. What kind of efficiencies are we talking about? Improved coordination across disciplines, a faster construction cycle by reducing duplication of work, producing near zero defect designs, and improved project monitoring. Despite the need to enable BIM in India, its adoption in the country will be far from easy.
Shifting from the traditional method to a BIM-enabled efficient method is going to take some effort. So mindset shift is very crucial. Skills and skills-related issues have to be dealt with. We have to teach our civil engineers, our architects, and our built environment professionals model-centric project delivery methods.
Experts also say that BIM's digital DNA will also help at a governmental level, especially when it comes to large-scale projects like smart cities and affordable housing. With camera person Govind in Bangalore, Lakshmi Sivadas for NDTV.
On that note, we'll take a short break. Pradeep and Ravi will stay put with us. On the other side, we'll talk about how BIM can deliver smart cities and smart infrastructure for India. Welcome Welcome back. We're discussing smart technologies for a smart India, and we have with us Pradeep Nair, Managing Director, Autodesk India, and Ravi Sarangan, Director, Edifice Consultants. Okay, Pradeep, so the concept of building information modeling, BIM, works on your Autodesk Revit. Can you run us through the process and share some examples of just how a developer of a project benefits from this, this modeling, this model process?
So again, it starts right from, you explained it, right from conceptual design to actually construction, conceptual design to construction to maintenance and managing the project through its life cycle. So it plays a role right through the entire life cycle of a project. So right from the time that the developer and the architect sitting together conceptualize the design, you build that in a model, rather than just doing it on the initial sketches might happen on a piece of paper. You incorporate that into a three-dimensional model, and that's what you develop over time. And everybody, as it progresses through the life cycle, every individual stakeholder that comes in adds his or her input to the same model. So Ravi talked about MEP consultants and structural consultants as they appear later in the life cycle. Everybody works off the same model. So the model expands, the model gets information added on at every phase in the life cycle, and by the time the project goes for construction, it's good for construction. Drawings are developed out of the model. Once a project is completed, the model lives on because you need operations and maintenance. You need to maintain that project over the life cycle. So you need to replace parts, you need to repair parts. All of that information still continues to stay in that model.
Ravi, Pradeep spoke about how BIM looks at the end-to-end execution of a project. So in India right now, we're talking about housing for all by 2022. Can BIM step in here when it comes to achieving this big vision that has been set by the center?
I don't know whether you read the newspapers today. We are doing a smart city in Mumbai, right at the heart of Mumbai. The new central business district, which is coming up at Vadala, is close to about a 250-acre project that is being master planned by Edifice currently. And we're going to be using BIM extensively to get in all these services, to get in all the elements which go into the making of a smart city. We are at that stage in the country where we're going to see we are poised for a huge amount of development, and any technology intervention which will help save time, minimize errors, is going to be a welcome step. And as an architect, the bigger challenge is to evolve a great design. The clients are appointing you for being creative. And if some amount of my time which goes into the production of drawings and coordination can be reduced through technology and technological interventions, it's a welcome step for every architect and every planner in this country today.
Okay. Pradeep, so speaking of housing for all cities, but we have to make all of these accessible to the masses. Can BIM be an opportunity that policymakers need to seriously look at? We need to rethink the way we build, and BIM is the answer, at least now for the government?
If you want things to happen in very accountable, very clear phases of time, if you want to accelerate the transformation that the government wants to bring about, then some of these are almost mandatory that we adopt. I mean, if you look at other parts of the world that have done this, and one of the ways in which this process has been accelerated, that results have actually happened in the time frame that governments have planned for, is by adopting strategic interventions of technology, as Ravi put it.
So as the Indian market evolves and becomes more accepting of a technology like BIM, as Pradeep and Ravi are just telling us, what is interesting to note is also that Indian BIM service providers are not just enabling this technology in India, but also the world. Nikhil Narayan Sivadas tells us how.
Real estate in India is highly inefficient, and delays, cost overruns and material wastage are part and parcel of any project. But Harshvardhan Neotia, chairman of leading real estate firm Ambuja Neotia, was determined to break this cycle. Hearing about a growing number of global and Indian developers using a radical technology called BIM, he decided to work with BIM service provider Pinnacle Infotech to utilize it in his projects.
As we work, we try to look at new technologies to see how the whole project can be made more efficient. And when they presented us with the scheme that they could do a virtual modeling, that means virtually construct the building outside the building on a piece of paper or basically on a software, I thought that it would be a good way to see how we can minimize defects, how we can improve the construction process, and how we can maybe monitor it more closely. So that's how it's got started.
Globally, developers in the USA, UK and Australia have found BIM cuts capital costs and the carbon footprint by as much as 20%. Indian developers too have begun to realize the savings BIM provides and are increasingly turning to BIM service providers like Pinnacle Infotech to adopt it in their businesses. So far, the RIC School of Built Environment estimates that nearly 22% of Indian developers are already using BIM.
Clearly, the BIM advantage has been established, and that is one of the reasons some of the major companies in India now have mandated the use of BIM. For example, Ambuja Reality, all their projects now, they are on BIM. TCS, all their projects are on BIM. L&T, all their projects are on BIM. So more and more companies now will adopt BIM.
Usually when talking about sophisticated foreign tech, Indian companies look abroad for technical knowledge and support. But in the case of BIM, they needn't look further than their own backyard, with Indian BIM service providers being sought after by global companies to enable BIM for their businesses.
Almost 95% of our business is from international market. Today we are working in more than 18 countries, and because they have adopted it much before, so we get majority of our businesses from international market.
Much like their cousins in IT and ITES, their relatively low cost and large pool of skilled manpower are key elements that have enabled Indian BIM providers to provide low-cost, high-quality solutions to developers across the globe. Experts say that adopting BIM can save as much as 5 to 12% of total time spent on a project and as much as 18% spent on total costs. And with global BIM tech readily available in India, it's easy to see that more and more Indian developers will soon be jumping onto this platform. From Mumbai, Nikhil Narayan Shivdas, NDTV.
Okay, big players in India adopting and making it mandatory to run their projects, planning their projects, designing and building their projects on a BIM model. Ravi, as we just saw, a lot of excitement in the market with regard to BIM, but is there enough talent, skilled talent in India to actually deliver BIM services? And what about the costs, the investment costs involved?
It is initially going to be an expensive proposition because you're going to have smaller numbers. And here is where I think the industry as well as the government should make it possible, enable more students and professionals to make it affordable for them so that we can reap the rewards in a much quicker time.
Pradeep, closing comments from you. As Ravi just said, we need to leapfrog BIM into the next decade. How are you impressing upon the industry to actually adopt BIM? We have a lot of developers investing hugely in precast technology, jump form technology, but they're still quite unaware about what BIM can do.
So a couple of things. One is, of course, can we provide talent to the industry, right? So just to give you an example, last year we trained about 12,000 students across the country, 12,000 people across the country on BIM. About 800 colleges across the country have access to BIM software. And by the way, the software is made available free of charge. There's not a penny that's charged to the student or to the college for the use of this software. So that's the kind of talent that is being brought into the industry. When people go to the JJ School of Architecture to recruit, companies are asking, just like Ravi said, hey, I know you understand architecture, but do you know Revit? Do you know BIM? So we're doing RPs as part of what the industry needs to do to make sure that there is that infusion of talent that is available in the market. I think what is also changing the perception of the market is, developers, owner-operators, the L&Ts of the world, the DLFs of the world, are really seeing the benefits of using BIM in their projects. They see clear savings in time and cost, and that's really making a difference. There's only so much that you can evangelize. Ultimately, customers, ultimately users, look at what what are the real benefits that they're seeing.
Okay, so BIM is no longer just a fancy word. It's at the inflection point of turning into a mainstream technology in the construction sector in India at least. All right, so that was how BIM, or Building Information Modeling, can help transition India into the next phase of smart urban development, a promising technology that needs the right push from the government and the private sector if we have to achieve housing for all, smart cities and urban renewal. Pradeep Nair and Ravi Sarangan, it was great to have your inputs. To all our viewers, thanks for watching. Goodbye.
This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime. In association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.